Suppressors supposedly give you more salvage, but exactly how much more salvage do they provide? Well, today I put suppressors to the test. I've got the graphs, I've got the charts, and I figured out exactly how suppressors work. As always with these more analytical videos, I will have chapters in the video itself so you can skip to the end and just do the big findings and skip all of the mumbo jumbo talk in the middle. But as always, part of the fun is the journey. So let's start this journey. Let's show you what I did here. For capturing my data, I decided to play 2 games with a suppressor and 2 games without a suppressor. I played those games all the way until round 31, and I dedicated myself not to pick up any side quest salvage. I wasn't going to do the church Easter egg thing with the head there. I wasn't going to do anything other than capture the salvage that dropped directly from the zombies. And then I could take the stats from all of those games, make it look pretty, and that's exactly what I've done. So here we have our first 2 games without any suppressor. This is just a base weapon, no suppressor, and we wound up, you can kind of see, here is our salvage total. This row right here, this is just how much salvage I had in my inventory at the end or beginning of the round, I should say. However, I needed to account for the salvage that I had spent. So I actually wrote that all down here. I wrote down what I spent my salvage on right here as well, so I could keep track of that. And I bet not many of you, let me know if you knew this, you still actually get bonus salvage here in Black Ops 6 for completing round milestones. So starting at round 11 and then every 5 rounds after that, you get more and more salvage. Really interesting. And so with these numbers right here, I was able to do some math here and do our running total of all of the salvage that we had earned that game, as well as the increase in salvage versus the previous round, which is really fun to look at. And you can see for our first 2 games here, we got 14,900 salvage total for game number 1, and we got 14,750 salvage from game number 2, which is remarkably consistent here. I did also write down the kills here. Now this is a little bit inaccurate because I really couldn't capture how much salvage I had after my exfils. I will say I did exfil every single game, but I couldn't get all of the salvage from the exfils because sometimes it would pull me right into the cutscene right away, so I left some salvage. So I decided this round 31 here was at the start of round 31. It wasn't after the exfil, so these kill numbers are going to be a little bit inflated because we're going to get certain kills from the exfil, but that's across all of the games, so that error should average out between all the games, if that makes sense. I did also heavily consider dividing these numbers by 50 just because that would get us counts of salvage themselves, like the amount of drops themselves, but I decided to keep it here because I think that kind of makes a little bit more sense here. But I did factor in the dividing by 50 thing in this formula right here for the kills per salvage, in case you were wondering. Anyway, math aside, you get 1 piece of salvage on average every 4.8 kills here. And of course, we could take a look at this fancy graph right here. You can see both game 1, game 2, we kind of have a really similar structure here. Actually really close as we get closer to round 30 here. Really cool how consistent that is, if you ask me. So now what happens when we go ahead and throw on a suppressor here? So here we have game 3, game 4, we threw on a suppressor, and you can see the total is now 16,850 and then 16,050. Right away, that is substantially more salvage, about 2,000 more salvage, 150, 2,000 more salvage between these games. It's a difference. And playing these games, it felt very different. If we kind of compare these games roughly here, by the way, this spreadsheet will be in the description for you guys to look at and see. You can see with our suppressor, we were getting a blue rarity on round 10, whereas we had to wait till round 12 here. We did get it to 10 here, but as we kept progressing here, we got legendary rarity here at 23, legendary rarity at what is that, 24? And then without a suppressor, we needed to wait till round 26 and 25 for that legendary rarity. So putting on a suppressor, this is what's really cool about this. Putting on a suppressor definitely helps. You can see at the end of our game, we had like 7,000, 6,000 salvage left. And then here we had 5,000, even 4,000 salvage here. So it made a substantial noticeable increase. However, in terms of functionally increasing your salvage, you were still getting your legendary rarity, your purple rarity, pretty close to where you were without it. So what I like about that is that you are not super handicapped. And you can see I actually purchased this pretty late here. I was actually able to earn it here on round 17. I just for some reason didn't, which is about the same here with a suppressor. So that's kind of what's nice about it. It does make an impact. So you do get a benefit of running a suppressor, but I don't feel forced to run a suppressor. If you don't run a suppressor, it's not like you're handicapping yourself. It's not like you're putting yourself at this insane disadvantage without a suppressor, which is awesome. And that's something that reflects down here. Again, we have about 1,400 kills here, and we have about 4.1, 4.4 kills on average for every piece of salvage. So again, it's a notable increase, 4.8 versus 4.2, 4.4. You're going to notice that right away. As soon as you go in, you're going to be seeing a lot more salvage, getting a lot more salvage. And if we take a look at this graph, what's really cool is that these two new games here, the two on top, this green and the green and the yellow right here, the difference between a suppressor and a non-suppressor will actually increase over time because obviously it's a percentage increase. So the larger or the higher round you go, the larger difference it's going to make. That's why we see a pretty large difference here towards the end of the game rather than here at the beginning of the game. So if you're not running high rounds, if you're only going to round 20, 25, 30, you might want to use that attachment for something a little bit different. Maybe put on a compensator, something for recoil. However, we are not done yet. I know that could be really easy and really simple here, but I was curious myself. Something that I have been preaching since day one, these little tips and tricks I've been trying to share with you, has been doing these side quests and doing these SAM trials. And I thought this was a great opportunity to really lock down and see just how much these side quests and these SAM trials make a difference in terms of our salvage gain. And so what I did was I played two more games here, one with a suppressor, one without a suppressor, and this one I went completely ham. I went totally insane, did all of the side quests. I destroyed the crystals in the church. I waited until round 10. I did the blue tool Easter egg, and I did as many SAM trials as I could possibly do. Now, full transparency here, this game number 5, the suppressor game with SAM trials, I did one more SAM trial than I did in this no suppressor game. I did 8 SAM trials over here. I did 7 SAM trials over here. So that's going to be a little bit reflecting in the numbers here. However, after doing that, you could see the astronomical difference that made. 23,000 salvage, 400. Insane. 18,650. This is without a suppressor. 18,000 salvage at the end of the game. That is so much more than even our games with the suppressor. So where I thought this video was going is completely different. I thought it was going to be, okay, the suppressor's good, but not great. But man, oh man, we have just learned here that these SAM trials and these side quests are so much more powerful than you might think. They're more powerful than the suppressor itself. You could see we got an inflated number of kills in both of these games here. Now, you'll also see an inconsistency here. Where did the 1601 come from? Well, that is the inconsistency of the SAM trials. Some SAM trials have you killing a certain amount of enemies. Some SAM trials have you surviving for a certain amount of time. And so doing that will get you different sorts of kills. So this kills per salvage is going to be a little bit skewed because I do not believe SAM trial zombies will actually get you more salvage here. But that being said, it's still really, really good. 3.4, 3.9, 3.9 kills per salvage without a suppressor is better than anything with a suppressor. And so that's reflected. Let's take a look at these games right here. This is what's really cool. Take a look at this. Our suppressor game with SAM trials got us that 23,000 salvage. You are pulling way farther ahead than you are just no suppressor, no SAM trials, no nothing. If you take anything away from this video, it's that no matter what you use, SAM trials are going to beat everything. Not only that, but I was getting like perks and like attachments. I got a napalm burst in one of them, which saved me even more salvage. You can get ether tools, which saves you even more salvage, especially if you're doing like a melee build and going for extreme high rounds. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. Let's zoom in even more here. Oh yeah, we can actually, here's our average salvage of all of these different games here, which is really cool to look at. You can see we've got our no suppressor, just our average there. I averaged the two games right here. No suppressor, we got 14,000 salvage. Suppressor, 16,000 salvage. No suppressor with SAM trials, better than both of these guys, 18,000 salvage. And then suppressor with SAM trials just blew everything out of the water. I know these two are only one games, but I thought it was worth graphing anyway. Plus, it was really easy. So here is the actual stats here. Here are the averages of everything. No suppressor, suppressor, no suppressor, SAM trials, suppressor, SAM trials, kind of everything that we just went over, all the kills, all the average kills per whatever, just in a really nice fancy place. But down here we have kind of the bulk of everything, the meat of everything. So if you're just running a suppressor is going to get you about 10-11% more salvage. And I think that's pretty accurate because that's also reflected here in our average kills per salvage. Putting on that suppressor, you're going to get a flat up 10% more salvage across your entire game. However, doing SAM trials here, even without a suppressor, you're getting 25% more salvage. You're getting 19% better average kills per salvage. I actually had this calculation wrong. I was looking at the wrong cell here. So actually what happens if you do a suppressor and these SAM trials, you are getting 57% more salvage and you're getting about 30% an increase on your average kills per salvage, which means it takes you 30% less kills to get one piece of salvage. It's a weird stat, I know, but I just decided to throw it in there. But this is the real big one. This is comparing our suppressor SAM trial game versus our no suppressor, no SAM trial game right here. So that's where the 57% comes in. That's huge. And you can see that that just reflecting in the numbers right here. Half of, 50% of that's about 7,000. You add 7,000, that's a little bit more than 50%, right? From this to this, it's crazy. That is absolutely insane. Of course, I just want to point out here, statistically speaking, I played a mere 6 games. All right, 3 with a suppressor, 3 without a suppressor. 1 doing SAM trials, 1 doing SAM trials without a suppressor. This isn't exactly hours and hours, like 24 hours of testing like I did for Gobblegums. I'm sure with more games and more tests, these numbers would get even more accurate. But that being said, I think we've got the basic principles here. I think our findings are going to be our findings. So what did we learn? The difference between running a suppressor and not running a suppressor is going to be about 10%. In other words, suppressors are going to give you about a 10% increase on your salvage. In terms of practicality, we learned that that is a substantial felt difference, although it's not going to be a huge game-changing difference. You're not crippled without a suppressor. And of course, we learned that if you want the most salvage possible, you are going to be completing SAM trials. SAM trials are way better at increasing your salvage than a suppressor ever will be. And combining SAM trials with a suppressor is even better. I absolutely love the balance of salvage right now. I love that the suppressor is useful, but it's not crippling without it. I think that's the perfect balance. I love that the SAM trials are really your way of earning more salvage. It makes them useful every single game you can. I love how these things are balanced within Black Ops 6. It makes the moment-to-moment gameplay so much fun. So what attachment do you want to see me test out next? Do you want to see how much headshot damage is actually increased with the CHF barrel? Or do you want me to figure out what FMJ actually does? And if you want to see a brand new attachment that we all just collectively unlocked, be sure to check out this video and stay beautiful.